Well, the Finance Minister revealing his supplementary budget. Let's go deeper into all of that. Some of the big announcements. No final decision on whether government workers, public sector workers, will get the above-inflation increase that had been agreed to 2 years ago. A lot more money, of course, going to the Health Department. Let's speak now to the Institute for Economic Justice. Neil Coleman is the co-director of that institute. He joins me now. Neil, good afternoon to you. Your first thoughts, in a way, not a huge amount of detail coming through. Is it going to change the game for people on the ground, do you think?
Well, Stephen, the Institute for Economic Justice today issued an analysis of the 500 billion rand rescue package by government, and we pointed out that about 3/4 of the rescue package, the 500 billion, doesn't appear to have been spent, and we were hoping for much more detail in this budget. We're obviously still plowing through the 100-odd pages of information in the special review. But there are some worrying aspects to it. So, for example, the COVID-19 special grant of 350 rand, which has only so far gone to a couple of 100,000 people. They've indicated that they have just made a provisional allocation. The allocation for grants has come down from 50 to 41 billion, in part because the Director General indicated that there's been slow take-up. Now, the issue isn't slow take-up. It's about the design of the system, which is quite exclusionary, difficult to apply for, and the inefficiencies in the administration. You know, the same would apply to issues like the loan guarantee scheme, where 200 billion was supposed to be made available for businesses as relief in this very difficult for businesses to apply for loans on concessional terms, etc. And only a few billion of those have been advanced. So in a way, the issue is not just what's in the budget. The issue is, how does it begin to hit the ground and begin to make a real difference, as you indicate, to people's lives? And that is where quite a few worries exist. But also in the broader context of the fiscal stance that government is taking, we've seen that they are taking a very hard austerity stance, where they're going to cut back 230 billion rands of spending over the next couple of years, and hope to have a budget surplus by 2023, which is quite bizarre given the fact that governments throughout the world are doing whatever it takes to counteract the worst depression that has hit the world economy over the last 100 years. So the messages that government is sending out, on the one hand offering some relief, on the other hand slashing spending in a whole range of areas, is quite worrying. And the governor talks about the danger of us heading into a debt trap. And of course, that's something that any responsible government will be concerned about. But if you, relying on the public sector to stimulate the economy, and the public sector or the state is cutting back on spending on such a large scale, the danger that you're going to contract the economy further. Intellidex spoke about contracting from 10% to 16% this year if the rescue package wasn't properly implemented. Then that's going to lead us deeper into a debt trap. So there's an incoherence in government's fiscal stance.
All right, Neil, I mean, you say that, I accept what you say, but at the same time, the Finance Minister is saying today that in February they thought that debt levels would be about 65% of GDP. It's now going to be about 80%. The SARS Commissioner, Edward Kieswetter, but also in the speech confirming from the Minister that, 300 billion rand that government thought it would get, it's not going to get because of all of this.
Yeah.
This is a situation where basically the only choices that are left are the ones that aren't just doom. It's an impossible situation, isn't it?
It's a very difficult situation, but in a difficult situation, you resort to unorthodox measures. When there was a world war, countries did what they had never done before in terms of their reconstruction programs, using central banks, using various forms of savings, etc., etc. And many economic commentators in South Africa have said we need to resort to unconventional methods. That is what governments around the world are doing. So this is no time for timidity and to wail about the terrible dilemmas which we confront, which of course we do. The question is, how do we adopt bold measures which begin to address the massive damage which is being done to the economy? And the reversal of the situation is not going to come from the private sector. That's clear. The private sector has been hammered. So when government talks about a three-phase program, you remember in his speech he spoke about relief, then recovery, then building towards a new economy. What is the strategy in order to do that? And honestly, the messages that are being sent out to use austerity in this period is a very, very worrying signal.
Neil Coleman, thanks very